I watched a documentary on memory this week and learned that 40 to 50% of our memory is wrong. This was proven by asking people about their memories of 9/11 after 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years, and comparing how their memory changed over time. And yes, 40 to 50% of our memory is wrong. People have been wrongly convicted of crimes and sent to jail for years based on eyewitness testimony, which was later proven wrong through DNA testing. Flaws in the witness program continue to cause problems in various countries, states, and provinces, uh, and it contributes to this. Some countries are working to correct it. All of this is because memory is plastic. It's not carved in stone, and the very act of accessing a memory changes it. There's many points along the way where memory turns false. The brain can't retain all the countless details of an experience, and neither can words contain or convey that total reality. So we condense it into stories that we can tell. Then you're telling it like it's your story and not your memory. But the story is not the event, neither is the story even the real memory. And every time we tell the story, both the memory and the story of the memory changes. You know this process is true about memory if you've ever played that game telephone as a child. It's where children sit in a circle and one sentence is whispered into the next child's ear and passed on until it comes back to the first child, completely changed and often silly and nonsensical. That's because we don't hear it right. We don't remember it right. We delete things, we distort things through the mind, and we imagine things to fill in the gaps and try to make it make linguistic sense. So we do this to each other, but we also do it to ourselves every time we rethink and relive, which is really rerun memories and stories. And every time we tell ourselves things. Researchers found that the story changed the most for about a year. And after a year, the simple story, which is shorter, smaller, and easier to remember, starts to stabilize. And we can tell it with fair consistency. And so we develop confidence in our story, believing it to be the memory of something that happened. Basically, the memory, which was never the moment itself anyway, is replaced by the story. So the initial memory storage was incomplete to begin with, but worse, our memory of the story is also so malleable that it too changes for up to a year. Now, if all that wasn't enough to put memory in perspective, experiments show that we create false memories or things that never happened, but for which we are convinced they did. Stories of people who weren't where we placed them in the mind, but for who we are convinced were there. They say as we get older, our memories become less accurate, but we're more convinced that they are real, right, and true. So, scientists convinced people that they committed a criminal act as a child and found it hard to later convince them that it was just a lie they were set up. The brain does not distinguish between memories of things that actually happened from memories of imagination. Every time you use the mind's power of imagination, you have a memory of that imagination. And the more vividly you imagine and the more emotion present, the more real that memory will feel. Then you apply your power of authority to anchor in that it really did happen. Doing all this, you're creating a memory, even though what you imagined never happened in real life. This is how you can become convinced of things like past lives, or to become convinced that you're the abuser in an abusive relationship. Thought arising in mind basically has two sources. Its basis can be an historical memory. A word or an image is stored after an event, and those events can be what people said or what you read, or what other people believed and shared with you. Or its basis can be different thoughts, memory, or imagination recombined in the mind to appear to make something new. It's like rearranging the same furniture to make a room look new, but it's still all just mind. A thought arises, an image or a video or a thought, word thought, or a feeling plays in the mind. And if you're not aware that this is the mind, this is of the mind, and that you're seeing a mental movie, you'll mistake the movie for reality. Suffering the movie, you imagine you suffer reality. This is how we confuse mind for things, people for mind, and mind for events. This is called dreaming. While dreaming the movie in the mind, you're unconscious to the real. Now, what you put in the mind is what comes out. If you put disturbances in, that's what it'll give you. This is what we do when we suffer. We fill the mind with disturbances, and that's what it gives us. And then we suffer and complain. I don't want the brain to do that. I don't want these thoughts. I don't want these memories. But it's what you're telling the brain you want by spending time with it, by giving it emotion, by giving it importance. What is this moment, reality, what is peaceful. If you stay with what is and not go with the mind, you'll remain at peace. This moment does not change from what it is. It is simple existence as it is. But looking at thought rather than this moment, you can make this moment appear to be something it's not, something disturbing. And then all that gets stored as a memory to be relived later, though it never happened. Oh my. You could get quite concerned about this. You could be worried about your past. You could be worried about your memory. But I suggest you don't go thinking there. And instead, given all this about memory and mind, I have one question. Does memory matter? Really? Does it matter with regards to who others are? Does it matter with regards to who you are? Is your faulty memory and molded story who you are? Does memory matter? Or does this moment matter? If you discern the movie from reality in this moment, if you get real and you take care of this moment, and the past is also taken care of, and memory doesn't matter. After all, it's only this moment where the truth and reality of your being can be discovered. Reality of being or existence is not in the imagination, is not in the mind. So, I suggest don't trust memory or mind to tell you about reality, about this moment. Use this moment. It does not need memory or the mind. From the perspective of both relationships and the realization of truth, only this moment matters. So leave mind alone, get real, and see what's what. Thanks for visiting. Until we meet again, you know what to do. Keep it real.